Matt, aside from the ebb and flow of the conflict on the ground here, one of the big themes of the war over the last 48 hours has been efforts to hold Russia to account for war crimes and crimes of aggression. So, for example, in Kyiv today, the trial continues of a Russian soldier, who has admitted to killing an unarmed civilian, and that man's widow confronted that Russian soldier in court. At an international level, the European Parliament is going to support a resolution to set up a special tribunal that will investigate crimes of aggression, which would bring it beyond the scope of the International Criminal Court. As for us, we've spent the last 2 days in a village just east of here. The word atrocity is a very big word, but here is what that means to people in a very small village. And I should stress, there are distressing images in our report. 5-year-old Veronica singing and cycling past the school in the village of Vilhivka. She was due to start at the school in September. She is thankfully oblivious to the bloated body of a Russian soldier lying in the grass in front of the school. On the 23rd of March, Russian forces took this village, 15 miles east of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second city. The school became the Russian command center. They held on to the village for about a week before Ukrainian troops pushed them out. This video from Ukrainian forces shows the offensive to take back the school. Exactly what happened in this village during that week may not ever make the history books, but it should. This is the first street you come to when you enter this village, and residents who used to live here told us that when the Russians were moving in, they took out every single residential house on the street. Now, the school is another street over the HQ of the Russian operation, and this will have been in the heat of the battle as the Ukrainians were trying to take it back. But you have to ask yourself, what was the point of taking out every single home? The name of this street, by the way, is Ukraine Street. If this is a country story on a street, then Nikita Shukrabin's story is that of this village. He would have been a star pupil at the school in his day. The young man, now 20, was studying law in Kharkiv before the war.
Никита был здесь. Он приблизительно метров 500, вот здесь через поле. Проходил домой и в районе садика там пропал.
On the 27th of March, he was visiting with his friend Andre in this building beside the school, which they both attended as children. At 3 p.m. that day, Nikita left to go home just across the field. It was the last time Andre saw his friend. What do you think, deep down, what do you think happened to him?
Надеюсь, конечно, его взяли в плен. Его могли, когда он ушел домой, его могли схватить и затянуть. Это единственный из вариантов, который может. Потому что второй вариант может только быть хуже. Так, и очень давно нет никаких известий, уже прошло 2 месяца. И как бы только надежда одна, что он еще жив, и ждем его дома. Вот так вот.
This is where Nikita lived with his mother and father. Nikita's parents were taken to Russia under false pretenses on the 28th of March. Their son was not with them. 90 people from this village were taken by Russian soldiers across the border that day. At little Veronica's house, we met her mother and grandmother and Svetlana, a friend. Her father was one of the 90.
С нашего поселка дошли до соседнего поселка пешком. Это где-то 5-6 километров. И были там около 90 человек. Там были люди старые, тоже в возрасте. Оттуда их забрали военные КАМАЗы.
They were told they were being brought to another town in Ukraine, but at the border with Russia were transferred onto buses. That's when everyone realized they'd been lied to.
Сказали им, что мы вас довезем до Волчанска, это наш украинский город, но оказалось не так. Их перевезли через границу к Белгороду.
Svetlana's father didn't have his passport with him and is now stuck in Russia. We spent 2 days in Velhivka. These just a handful of experiences, there are more. The 2 young men killed by artillery fire in the cemetery while they buried a friend. A child in the village who developed a speech impediment during the intense shelling. Just 7 days of fighting in one village. That put Veronica's future on hold for now. That put 20-year-old Nikita's future on hold for who knows how long. A week is a very long time in a war.
Warwick O'Brien there. Now, President Biden has been meeting the Prime Minister of Sweden and President of Finland at the White House, where he promised that their bid to join NATO had the full, complete backing of the United States. Mr. Biden was speaking at a joint press conference with the 2 Nordic leaders in the Rose Garden, and our Washington correspondent Siobhan Kennedy was there. Siobhan.
Well, Joe Biden described this as a momentous day, and it shows you, doesn't it, just how important America's approval is, that a day after announcing their intention to join NATO, that both Finland and Sweden came immediately here to the White House in Washington, D.C., knowing as they did that their application has already been vetoed by Turkey's President Erdogan, based on his long-term belief that both of those countries, Sweden in particular, harbour Kurdish militants, what he calls terrorists, who he believes represents the biggest national threat to Turkey's security. Against that backdrop, President Joe Biden, though, wanted to make crystal clear today that both Finland and Sweden meet every NATO requirement, he said, and then some. Let's hear what the president had to say.
We have consulted closely at every stage as Sweden and Finland made their determinations. And today I'm proud to assure them that they have the full, total, complete backing of the United States of America. The bottom line is simple, quite straightforward. Finland and Sweden make NATO stronger.
Well, Biden made clear that discussions with both those countries had been ongoing since December, which rather begs the question, did anybody think to invite President Erdogan or run it by him, knowing full well that he would have an issue with this? I did ask that question in the press conference, but no answer was forthcoming. Finland's president, however, did address the issue in his remarks. Let's hear what he said.
The Turkish leadership has recently expressed concerns about our membership application. We are open to discussing all the concerns Turkey may have concerning our membership in an open and constructive manner. These discussions have already taken place and they will continue in the next days.
Well, one person that we know will be potentially enjoying this friction will be President Putin, knowing as we do that he wants to try and exploit any cracks within NATO that he can. Hence the desire to reach some form of agreement with Turkey quickly in the next few days and weeks and move on. That's certainly the desire of the people in that White House there behind me.